Hey everybody, Stu Smith here, going live, taking questions and giving answers. So if you have them, let me know. I'm actually doing multiple broadcasts right now. So I'm on Instagram on my phone over here, but on my computer, I am on Facebook, my Facebook group, and YouTube. So if you missed this, and you're on Instagram, only lasts a day on the story, you can cruise over to my YouTube channel and check it out there. So, with that, what have I been up to this week? I have been working hard this week. Actually, working on the new book. We did a winter lift cycle that is over now. It's spring, but during that winter lift cycle, we changed things up a little bit. Instead of making it a 12-week solid lift cycle, we wound up doing 3 weeks of strength training followed by 1 week of PST focused training. And we did that throughout the 12 weeks. Actually did it for 16 weeks because we tested it out before we did it, just see if it was something we'd wanted to do. And it was awesome. We did really well with it. So that new program will be out this month. It's called Increase Strength and Crush the PST and PASS test. So it's going to be kind of geared for maintaining and improving PST scores, PASS test scores that require a swim, pull up, push up, sit ups, and a run. But you don't have to swim if you don't have to. You can mix in some calisthenics, or you can mix in some non-impact cardio, or if you're an Army guy, you want to put on a backpack and go for a ruck, that's a good time to do it as well. So anyway, that's what we normally do with our Army guys, make them not worry about the pool so much, and then put a ruck on them and get them out there moving some weight. So got a lot of questions, it looks like, already. So if you have them, if you have any from YouTube or Facebook, just post them up here. I'll start off over here with Instagram because you guys are already popping out questions here. Pretty. If I miss your question, I apologize. You can email me or DM me the question if I do not get to it, and I will answer it in person. So let's see what we got here. So what should I do once I finish a 6-week running program? I would probably continue on a running program, but what I would suggest is, do you need a running program, or do you just need to run regularly? Right? I mean, I run all year long, but I'm not necessarily on a running program for 52 weeks. So if I'm really trying to focus on something like my speed or timed runs or something like that, then I get on a running program. Then now you just need to figure out what you need to do to maintain your current level, or do you still need to improve it? So you could either do that 6-week running program again, see if you can go a little faster this time, or you can get on another program and progress from there. But the goal is to progress logically, find a place where you're happy with, and try to maintain it and not burn yourself out. So I have a couple articles in there that I will put into my YouTube channel comments or description. But if you do a Google search on 20 miles a week running program, that's a good one. And it has a great set of workouts laid out for you every week that work on speed, works on a little bit of distance, works on goal pace running. So you can take that into your PST or fitness test and learn how to pace it out. All right, so let's see. How do you feel about someone joining SEALs with prone dislocated shoulder? I mean, I don't care. I mean, I've seen people join SEALs with all kinds of injuries, but if you can get cleared through medical, they're the ones that care. It doesn't bother me as long as you can do the job. We had a guy. I remember he dislocated his shoulder during rugby, and he was one of my rugby teammates. We were at Buds together, and he was making his bed one morning, and his shoulder dislocated when he was making his bed. So that was pretty bad. And that whole morning was nothing but log PT. And he just gritted it, got through it, and yeah, he made it through SEAL training. But yeah, that sucks. So you can get through SEAL training and you're susceptible to shoulder injuries. But if you had an injury that causes that dislocation often, you might want to get that checked. So, but yeah, medical's going to have to. You got to worry about medical more than my opinion. Are you still coming to New Jersey for the SOCOM athlete? Not sure. As of right now, I'm going to be very busy with Naval Academy events. I have some Naval Academy admissions department stuff I'm doing. I have Naval Academy camps as well as some SEAL prep training as well over the summer. So my summer is going to be pretty tight. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get off to go do that, but I talked to Jason about it the other day. So we'll see. There may be some other opportunities in the future. If time permits, should I learn freestyle stroke before the CSS? If you don't know how to swim, period, freestyle is probably your first best option because everybody in a swimming pool knows how to do freestyle, but not everybody knows how to teach CSS. So I would get in the water and learn some techniques to swimming. Freestyle is perfect. And then get in shape to be able to handle water workouts. That is number one and number two importance. Then you can start mixing in some CSS. Let me go over here to YouTube. I pick a lot of people starting to ask questions over here. So just in case you guys didn't hear, I am on YouTube, my Facebook page, my Facebook group, and Instagram over here. So for those of you who are watching on Instagram, you can go over to the YouTube channel and you will see links to the things I am explaining in the description after this video processes, or if you want to watch it again because I said something you want to hear again. So it'll be up there forever. Okay, let's see. Stu, if you had tendonitis in your foot, and I have, in fact, I may have a little right now, is it a bad idea to lift heavy or calisthenics that tax your CNS, upper body or full body? Well, I mean, any lifting is going to tax your CNS, central nervous system. I would just I would lay off running. If running hurts, don't do it. But I would definitely be lifting and doing non-impact cardio, get in the pool and swim. I'd still be crushing workouts, but yeah, I mean, you don't want to overdo your central nervous system. But I mean, that's basically just a fancy word of saying you don't want to overtrain. So just don't overtrain, and focus on your recovery. What book do I recommend for an 11-year-old planning to join the infantry? Maybe that's year 11, maybe 11th grade. I'm not sure. I would say go play some sports at your age and don't worry about infantry training right now. I'm assuming that's year 11 in school, not your age is 11. Right? I'm not understanding your English very well. But yeah, your 11th grade, play some sports, start working out for running, calisthenics, lift some weights, build a good foundation while you're in school. So, James, hey, buddy. Still here, still grinding, down 50 pounds, passed my SWAT test. Nice. Thanks in no small part to your content. Appreciate what you do. Oh, no problem. Good job on the SWAT test. If you're trying to go Army infantry, I would suggest the Army PFT CFT program. It has a really good build up and also plans on rucking. So that's what I would recommend. Husk, last name Husk there. What daily neck exercises would daily neck exercises be optimal? Buddy in SQT warned me about boats on heads. Yeah, boats on heads sucks. Said tons of dudes drop for it. Yeah, maybe not necessarily for neck. It just sucks, period. I mean, it's your whole body's going to feel the weight of the boat. Yeah, your neck will too. My advice is anytime that you're practicing sit-ups or flutter kicks or anything like that, keep your while you're laying down, keep your head off the ground. Do some up and down activities like this. Do some side to side. You know, your melon weighs what, 10 pounds? So that's a good workout for your neck just by going up and down side to side. But also roll over on your belly and do the same thing, up and down side to side. Work the other side of your neck. That's what I would do. I don't know if you need to do it every day, but it's not a bad idea to do them every other day. Mix some in there. You know, don't go too crazy and try to touch your shoulder to your ear. Just nice back and forth, and you'll see. You do this for a couple minutes, your neck's going to start feeling it. So, let's see. Let's get over back to Instagram. There's a lot of questions here. I'll be lucky to get through all these, but if I do not get to them, just send them to me and I will answer them. I promise. How should I cycle strength training and 12 weeks to Bud's guide? I would not do them at the same time. I mean, I guess you could, but that's not the goal. It's very hard to increase your strength when you're trying to increase your cardiovascular endurance and muscle stamina at the same time. It's almost impossible. You can maintain your strength and work on those other things, or you can maintain your muscle stamina and endurance while you increase your strength, but it's really hard to improve in both. So my suggestion would be, if you want to lift during 12 weeks to Buds, make sure the muscle groups you do that day coordinate with the muscle groups you do in the evening in a second workout, and make it just a supplemental plan. Doesn't have to be crazy. Maybe 30 minutes in the weight room just to get the pump on days you feel like you need more. That's what I would do. So on an upper body day, you're doing pull-ups and push-ups. That's a good day to go into the weight room, top it off with some bench press and overhead press and some pull downs and rows. Just mix it all up so you're working those muscles in a little bit more variety of fashion. So that's a good question. In fact, that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on a winter lift cycle that helps you increase your strength while you also maintain, and some people saw some PRs on their PST during this cycle. So it's a 3-to-1 ratio. We do 3 weeks of strength training followed by 1 week of PST training. And remember, our goal during this winter lift cycle is strength. So we focus on strength, but we took a little break off strength and did some PST work versus a deload week, kind of a deload week, but more of an active deload for a different muscle group or different activity or elements of fitness. And it worked really well. So I'm writing a whole new program on it. All right. Spencer says, just finished your 12 weeks to Buds, currently auto qual. Nice. Where should I go from here training wise? I'm college football linebacker, 6 foot 210 right now. I was 6 foot 195, 200 at Buds, and that was a good weight to not for me, not to feel crushed under boats and logs, but it wasn't too heavy for the obstacle course, and it wasn't too heavy to run fast. Though I will say, out of everything at Buds, running was definitely the thing that I had to dig deep to do well in. Like, I never failed to run, but I was never top of the class in running. I could do the O course top of the class. I could swim top of the class, PT, no problem. But damn, running was one of those little gut checks where I had to just bring my A game. So you may be in the same situation with that. You know, I was like I said, football player. I did not play in college, so I didn't have that additional strength and experience that you probably have from a couple more years of football training. So my advice is keep the cardio high. I would suggest staying on a maybe triathlon type program where you're running, you're swimming, and you're biking. That way, 2/3 of your cardio is non-impact cardio, but you're still going to get the benefits of good cardio. And then work on, just maintain your calisthenics. As long as they're in the auto qual zone, you're good. You have the strength already to handle boats and logs and rucking. I would add some rucking. If you're near the beach, rucking on sand sucks too. So practice some of that. But yeah, that's where I would go. Another round of 12 weeks to Buds is a good idea, or you could mix it up with, something else. That's focused mainly on calisthenics and more cardio. But that's where I would be if I was a powerlifting football player about to head to Buds. Your strength is good enough. I would bet if you go assess yourself on my assessment tool that I'll put a link into the description on my YouTube page. If you check that out, you got all the good PST scores. You got I'm sure you're well above the strength scores. I think you're going to be fine. As far as getting ready. So I would just make sure your cardio game is able to handle it. So, all right, let's see. Is hypertrophy training necessary? Cannot it be detrimental to endurance? Well, I mean, it's not going to be necessarily helpful to endurance when you are trying to gain weight, because you probably have to decrease your endurance a little bit to be able to gain weight, or eat like a horse even more when you're trying to gain weight, gain muscle. You definitely need to have some calories coming in. And if you're burning more calories doing endurance, you got to eat even more. So it depends. It depends on how you're doing it. If you're doing it like a bodybuilder and you're not maintaining your cardio, it could be very detrimental to your endurance. But, it's a lift cycle. So enjoy the lift cycle, take some time off of endurance and the impact of running. I would suggest doing some non-impact cardio just to maintain your heart and lungs. But it's necessary if you need to gain mass and get strength. So, bigger muscles will be stronger, but you can still be strong and not have huge muscles too. So kind of depends. I think a little bit of mass helps with durability. Like the guy above us who just mentioned his background at 210, that's plenty of mass to go to Buds. That's on probably the heavy good side. If you were closer to 220, I would say that's where it gets a little sketchy, where people have harder time maintaining O course, runs, things like that at that kind of weight or above. But 210 and between 200 and 210 is a really good weight for that height anyway. So yeah, I mean, you need to be able to have high endurance, which will allow for you to have some muscle stamina and some overall work capacity, but you also need some mass that will help you with overall strength and durability. Now, this is completely the answer for tactical professions. If you're just trying to get big and be able to run, it's a completely different answer for that. So I'm kind of talking on the tactical side versus someone just wanting to go lift and go run 5Ks, on the weekend. Just auto qualified my PST for SO because of my fitness book. Oh, thank you. Still looking to up my push-up and sit-ups in the hundreds. Would you suggest adding weight vests? Yeah, adding a cycle of weight vests, not a bad idea. I don't think you necessarily need weight vests to do sit-ups. I would focus on your hip flexors, really work those hip flexors. A lot of knee ups, a lot of leg levers, flutter kicks, swing with fins will help hip flexors as well. And then just practice using your hips on those sit-ups and pacing. Pacing's huge. So good job on the PST, but that gets you to the training. Now you need to focus on getting through the training. If you're going to spend a lot of time trying to get 100 push-ups when you're at 85, probably not that good a use of time, right? Focus on longer swims with fins. Focus on longer runs with good timed run at a 7-minute mile pace for your 4-mile timed runs. Focus on some weight training too. Mix in some weights just to be able to handle the boats and the logs, especially if you're kind of a smaller guy that needs not coming from a strength background. So your use right now, you got to the training, and that's good enough. Let's focus on getting through the training. Unless you're borderline, failure on those push-ups and sit-ups, then you might need to work on push-ups and sit-ups. What was the hardest thing for you in second phase pool comp? Now they call it OC8. Let's see. I would say, good question. The hardest thing is following the procedures. That's where people mess up. People think it's the breath hold in that, but it's really following the procedures. You just have to do everything in order that they taught you, whether that is, fixing your gear, ditching it and stowing it away properly and all that, and then coming up for the exhale and an ascent. All those things need to be perfect. So I would say memorizing and practicing the procedures was the hardest thing. That was harder than the breath hold for it. I was very lucky. I got it done the first time. And I would highly recommend that because that was a big stress reliever. So, all right, let's go back to Instagram over here. I'm doing fine. Thank you. Are you able to attend buds with asthma? I don't know. I don't think so. Any Spec Ops tries coming up? Yes, we will have one. Probably our spring one will be at the end of April, early May. Probably going to be at Sandy Point State Park. Water's warming up out there. Right now, we just can't get in a good swim event due to COVID and our pools. We can only fit in maybe 12 people at a time in the pool. That would take too long, especially if we have 75 or 80 doing the Spec Ops try. So we're going to do it in open water this time, right next to the shore. So it should be fun. I would say probably we'll do first week of May, that weekend there. And then at the end of May, we'll do a big Memorial Day Murph type workout. Maybe do another fundraiser for that as well. So should be fun. Good question there, Nick. How many miles a week do you recommend preparing for buds? Well, it depends. If you are a great runner, you don't need to spend a lot of time running. I would say, coming from a running background, I would say probably 20, 25 miles is sufficient. You need to work on other things than running. If you are a bigger guy, maybe not want to do too many miles yet, especially if you're the impact forces are going to start hurting you. Maybe 20, 25 miles there too. So my recommendation is somewhere between 20 and 35 miles a week, depending on your background, your height and weight, or not your height, but your mass, your weight, um, and just athletic history. If you're able to handle it, but you should not just go run 30, 35 miles one week just because I say it. What you need to do is build up to that. Make sure you don't get through, any tendonitis picking up, shin splints picking up, stress fractures for Pete's sakes, can happen as well if you progress too quickly. So you should progress, nice and easy, depending on where you are now to where you need to be. But build up over time. Most of my running programs are anywhere between 25 and 35 miles a week. I think that is sufficient as long as you do them fast. We've had people do 50 miles a week and they just did way too many slow miles. It doesn't do you any good to run, over 8-minute mile pace for 10 miles one weekend when you're really just learning how to run slow. Sure, you can build some aerobic capacity, and I get that. That's what long, slow distance runs are for. But you could use that time a little more wisely, I think, to focus on your goal pace, to crush PSTs, to crush the 4-mile timed runs. Put a backpack on your back and start rucking so you can be ready for the rucks and the load bearing activities that occur, whether it's buds or other tactical jobs. Let's see. How's 21 minutes for a 3.5K? Good pace. I would say 21 minutes is a good time for a 5K, not a 3.5K. So it's a little slow, but depends on your goals. If you're just running to run, hey man, good job. You got 3.5K under your belt. What's that? 2.5 miles maybe. So if you want to run a little faster, you could try to go there. Let's see here. All right, next question. Good shoulder routine to knock the USMC ammo box lift out of the park, as well as a few tips for logs and boats. Thank you. You know what? That push press is really hard. The ammo can box lift. For 2 minutes of doing that sucks. So I would practice doing 1 and 2 minute sets of that weight in a push press fashion. So you can use your legs a little bit if you need to, to just kind of move it up. But that's what we do. We add the push press into our pyramids. So we'll do pull-ups times 1. We'll do push press times 1. Push-ups times 2, dips times 2 or 1, depending on your ability. And sometimes if we're doing like a Murph, we'll do a squats times 3, or we'll do some kind of core exercise times 3. But yeah, pyramids are great. You do just a lot of push presses. But any upper body day, you should be doing shoulder routines. I also have a lightweight shoulder workout you can Google. That works really well for mixing in a variety of smaller muscles of the shoulder. So that's a good one just to build kind of a better base of the shoulder. It's not all deltoid work. You can try that out. In my videos, am I swimming a 50-meter pool or a 25-meter pool? In most of my videos, I am in a 25-yard pool. So 25 yards one way, 25 yards back, that's 50 yards. So it's not a meter pool, it's a yard pool. The Navy requires you to swim 500 yards for their swim test. The Air Force requires you to swim 500 meters for their test. Just one of those things. Okay, advice for swimming, running with asthma. Whew. Running is solid, but swims are killing me. Well, you know what? I don't know anything about asthma, so I can't really tell you how to get around it. It's not one of the things that I focus on in my training. But swims are different. I mean, whether or not you have asthma or not, there's an article I wrote called Dude, You're Not in Swimming Shape. And it's mainly directed towards people who are considering themselves in shape for running, which is fine. But when you're doing a swim, it's a whole different medium, right? So you need to be able to build up your endurance in the pool, which takes time. So give yourself a little more time on swimming. I do have a swimming workout I call the 50-50, where you do a 500-yard warm up followed by 50 freestyle hard and 50 CSS as a kind of way to catch your breath at your goal pace if you can maintain it, and then rest as needed. But you do that 10 times, comes out to 1,500 yards. And I promise you, if you're trying to get in shape for a 500-yard swim, 1,500 yards should be the minimum standard for you to be swimming in a day. Get that in. 1,500 yards will get you in shape for 500, I promise. Especially if you can start turning it into a 500-yard warm-up and then crushing the 50-50s. Let's see here. How would you incorporate running on a dry riverbed for simulating beach runs with interval run? That's what I used to do. I mean, back where I grew up, I lived about 80 miles from the beach, even though I lived in Florida, but I lived near some swamps and rivers. And during the summer, that riverbed was all dried up. So I would ride my bike out 10 miles to the river and then go run the riverbed for 30, 40 minutes and then get on my bike, ride back, go jump in the pool. Oh, those are killer workouts, man. The best. But yeah, that's how we did it. You know, ride your bike out to the river and get on the riverbed. It was soft sand beach, basically, you know, sandy riverbed. So it was fun. You know, I also did a plowed field to run in soft dirt. And I also did, let's see, I never did this, but I saw it done on a volleyball, beach volleyball courts. There are like 3 beach volleyball courts side by side, and the guys would just run kind of small laps, but they would, you know, practice running in soft sand because there's some techniques to it. You know, if you can find someone else's footprints, that's really good. All right. Good morning, Stu. I've been have extreme muscle fatigue on swims and runs. Some days I feel great, don't notice any. Others I feel weak. You know what I would do? I would suggest writing everything down that you do in a day, because that sounds like a fueling issue, not necessarily a conditioning issue. So whenever you do well, write everything that you did down in the last 24 hours, what you ate, what you drank, what how you slept. And that may be the key to you performing very well every single day. You just got to repeat that, whether that is, the same foods, same time, electrolytes, all of that is a really good way to assess when you do well or when you do not do well. So some days when I have those PR days, I'm like, man, what did I do last 24 hours? Because I want to do that again. Or if I have a crap day, I'm like, yeah, I slept like crap. I didn't eat very well last night. Probably needed some more carbs in the morning for my morning workout. So there's usually a reason. My bet would be fuel would be the problem when you're having issues like that, especially when it's not consistent. Let's see. Have you ever disagreed with certain aspects, evolutions, training, and brought them forward in terms of safety, longevity of sailor health? No, I have not. Um, I mean, of course, when I was in charge of evolutions, maybe I didn't do them the way that they did to me because I didn't agree with putting people through certain aspects of logs or boats that weren't prepared for it. But that's a good question. You know, not everybody's ready for Spec Ops training, so why put them through it if they're not actually in it? You know, you're preparing them for it. So, you know, as a coach, I may not do all the things that they are going to do at Buds just because potentially not that safe. For instance, 50-meter underwater swims, I don't do those. Um, every now and then we will do them in a very controlled environment where we have, you know, official Navy event with corpsmen on the pool deck and all of that. But, you know, nowadays, if you get somebody who's just not ready to do that and they pass out underwater, it shuts down your whole training. And then you got to explain to the higher ups why this happened. And it's just pain in the neck. So if you want to keep training, sometimes you have to pull back the leash on some of the more challenging and more potentially dangerous events. Otherwise, you're going to be shut down or sued. And the last thing you want to do is hurt somebody seriously, too. So, how would you increase lung capacity? I've tried diver lung app to increase my breath holding time and hasn't helped me in the pool that much. You know what? I've never tried it. There wasn't anything that I tried to be better at breath holding other than just getting in really good cardio shape and learning the techniques, whether that's an underwater swim. I mean, I'm still able to do a 50-meter underwater swim without much problem, right? Because I've got the technique down to where it doesn't really expend a lot of energy for me. It's basically like me holding my breath and walking 25 yards down and back on the pool deck. It's about the same. I get about the same amount of being winded doing that. So once you realize that you're everything about it is all technique driven, you know, and you can do 25 yards and 4 or 5 strokes, you're not going to expend that much air, you know, and you can be able to do a 50-meter underwater swim very easily. My advice is don't practice it alone. Never practice it alone. Unfortunately, every year someone dies doing breath holding underwater, whether they're by themselves or there's a lifeguard up top or there's buddies even swimming around the pool with them. People die every year. We actually had a midshipman die this year on Christmas break that was going to Buds, and he was doing breath holds at a pool, and his friends thought he was doing really well. And unfortunately, he passed out underwater and never came to. So that sucks. Don't do it. It's very serious. I don't know about all the gadgets you can use to make your lung bigger. I don't think you can do that. So I'm not pretty sure that they actually work. You know, Wim Hof method of breathing, it's got some legitimacy to it. I would consider looking into that. That may help you at least relax while you're holding your breath, which will help you hold your breath longer. So consider that. All right, let's see. How do I get in on group training with you, like the group of guys you post on Instagram? If you go to heroesoftomorrow.org, read that page, and you will see what we do. We get after it 6 days a week, couple hours a day. It is free training. However, slots are fairly limited. We're doing everything outside, so we're a little bit, we can have some bigger numbers since we're running a lot more. But when we were doing a lot of weightlifting, I was trying to keep it a little smaller. But you know, it just depends. You know, it's a fun group. We get after it all the time. We make a lot of Spec Ops candidates, Service Academy guys, FBI agents, SWAT team guys come out of there. So it's a good group. Just got the DEA work plan, and it is tough. Yeah, that is a tough plan. The DEA Academy is no joke. So, however, once the 7-week program is done, then what? I would, depending on your PFT scores, I would either repeat the 7-week program again, as 14 weeks isn't too much for that cycle. And then, depending on your overall weaknesses and strengths, I would consider maybe taking a little break from all the high repetition and mileage, do a little bit of lifting, maybe for 6 weeks, and then come back around and hit another calisthenics cardio workout. There's plenty of other options too that will still help you with the DEA fitness test. Calisthenics and cardio, Navy SEAL Fitness is another good one that's all calisthenics and cardio. If you want to add swimming, you can add swimming. If not, you can work on the sprint. But yeah, that's what I would do. Just trying to get in a cycle. Check out the seasonal tactical fitness periodization cycle, and it kind of takes you through how you can break up your whole year into focusing on strength during a lifting cycle. You can focus on and maintain your PT scores, and then you can focus on PT scores with running and calisthenics for a good chunk of the year, and then you just kind of ebb and flow through the year, so you're not trying to maintain such a high volume of calisthenics and running year after year after year, because that high level year after year after year will eventually break you. And I am living proof of that. I pushed it hard through my 20s, and by 30, I was broken. And it took me a couple of years to rebuild, to be able to even function anywhere close to where I was in my 20s. All right. Yes. Do I have any tips or secrets? No, I don't. There are none. Just got to get after it. I know that was a joke question, though. How would you prepare for combat swimmer orientation beehive tread? Good question. Get good at treading. Treading with no hands should be egg beater. But when you get in tight like that, so when you kick people, it's going to screw up your kick. So if you can do little flutter kicks for a little bit of time while you're in that tread zone and taking up a lot less space, that will help you a lot. And believe me, treading is hard. And if you don't think it's hard, you haven't done it long enough. But we typically will do this as part of our warm up for a swim workout. We will either do a 10-minute tread, no hands, or a 500-yard swim. And I promise you, a 10-minute tread feels about the same as a 500-yard swim. Warm up pace. You're not killing it or anything, but there's some effort involved in treading. And once you realize there's effort involved in treading, then you can bring the right mindset to that tread event, because where most people screw up is they go into treading, thinking, oh yeah, I can tread. That's easy. Tread, it's easy. I'll just sit there and float. No problem. Well, where they screw up is they think that way. They never practice, and then they get into treading, and now they're really working, huffing and puffing, and they're like, "Oh man, this is harder than I thought it was." Well, no crap, but you got to practice. You got to practice, and get good at treading. If you can do 10 minutes of treading, you're solid. 10 minutes, no hands, and then if you want to mix in maybe a 5-pound weight, you can do that. Hold it with one hand, tread with the other. Try to hold a little bit with both. That's really hard. You probably will need to work on your egg beater to be able to do that. But I mix it up when I tread. I'll do a scissor kick left, scissor kick right for a little bit of the tread, and then I'll go into an egg beater. Sometimes I'll do little flutter kicks like I mentioned, just to kind of practice that. That's hard. You can last about a minute pretty much. But if you're a good flutter kicker, you can last several minutes just doing flutter kicking. So practice multiple methods till you're really good at treading. Okay. It should be 10 minutes, should not be a hard event for you. Let's see, a few questions. How often would you incorporate pyramid calisthenics programs per week? Currently doing a superset once a week already, grease the groove every other day. Well, I don't think you need, I mean, you could put all of those into a week. Put a calisthenics on Monday, superset on Wednesday, maybe grease the groove on a couple other days following that. But one thing I wouldn't do too much of, if you're really starting to build your volume up, I wouldn't do back to back to back days of the same calisthenics. So the way we do it is, if you search, in fact, I'll put a link for my classic PST week below. It's a great week. It's what we did one week during our 3-to-1 winter lift cycle, is we did a week of the PST training, classic PST training week. Google that. And it's Monday is a PT pyramid, Wednesday is a superset, and Saturday is a max rep set. So same exercises those 3 days, just different methods to get the same volume. But you could do every other day calisthenic pyramids if you wanted to. I wouldn't do them every day. So 3 times a week max. Okay, so what would your recommended daily and weekly mileage be? I'm assuming that is running. We don't really have the same weekly mileage every week. We are either in a status of progressing each week at about 10 to 15% progression. We hold a little bit at the top, and then we start regressing, coming down. So our running program is a big bell curve throughout the year. So right now we're working our way up in the spring, going to build up to probably 30, maybe some guys at 35 this summer. And then we're going to start bringing it back down in the winter. And when we bring it down to winter, that doesn't mean zero. I'd say our minimum standard for running in the winter is 10 miles a week. But this winter, since we lifted outside and it was freaking cold, I was probably at 15 to 20 miles a week all winter just to stay warm, because it was chilly. So we would run in between lifts just to stay warm and keep things moving. Oh, let's see. Provided we are lifting, running, training correctly, how often would you be in the pool? Jake says 6 days a week for confidence alone. He's not wrong. Jeff says 2 times a week. Well, here's the difference. Jake sucked at swimming when he was younger. Jeff was a competitive swimmer when he was younger, right? So they will come at that with different histories, right? So maybe Jeff's programming, he didn't really need 2 times a week of swimming, right? That's all he needed because he was already a good swimmer. Whereas Jake needed to work on it 6 times a week, right? I'm somewhere in the middle. I think 5 times a week is a good standard for swimming. However, if you're a competitive swimmer, you might only need 2 or 3 times a week, because you need to be working on other things like running, probably lifting, getting used to anything with gravity, because swimmers usually break when they are exposed to gravity. So it depends. There's no one answer. I like both of their answers depending on who the person is. So you can't take any of these programs that are written, that are generically written, and apply them to your specific needs. You have to personalize it for what you need. And the only way to do that is to assess yourself, find out where your weaknesses are. If you suck at swimming, you need to be in the pool 6 times a week. If you're really good at swimming, but you suck at something else, you don't need to swim as much, and you need to be focusing on something else. All right. Don't get too caught up in the way programs are set up, because if you're getting a generic program, and mine are generic programs, This is one of them. Everybody's going into the spring summer cycle. That's a generic program. It is not personalized for you. So you need to figure out how to personalize that for your needs. So there you go. Couple more minutes. We've been jamming on this one here. Thanks for asking all these questions. And once again, I'm terribly sorry if I don't answer all of your questions. It's just, I think it's going to be impossible. You need to send them to me either by email, stu@stusmith.com, or you can DM me, though I will tell you sometimes DMs get lost very easily. Emails do not. Couple more questions. Lifting 3 days a week, push, pull legs. That's a good process. Calisthenics 3 days a week. A proper training ground to build a solid foundation. Is it? Well, here's the problem. If you're doing push, pull legs 3 days a week, lifting, and you're doing calisthenics 3 days a week, how does that look like in muscle groups that you are doing? Are you doing like push on Monday, and then you're doing like lift, pushing lifts on Monday, but then you're doing push-ups and dips and things on Tuesday, and then you do pulls on Wednesday, but you're also doing pull-ups the prior day before? I don't know. So I can't really answer that. I have to see how it looks spread out on what you're doing. But the thing you need to worry about is all the same muscle groups. You need to consider all the muscle groups that you're using when you are training each day. And when you have high volume calisthenics, you need to treat high volume calisthenics just as you do a push pull leg day. There's a reason why you're only doing push pull legs during once a week each, right, when you're lifting. However, I would suggest maybe mixing those in. So on your push days, you do bench press and push-ups and dips. On your pull days, you do pull-ups, all your pulling activities in the weight room. And then on your leg days, also mix in some squats and lunges. Maybe you do it as a warm-up. Maybe you do it as a cool down. I don't know. But for me right now, looking at that, depending on your goals, I don't know what that is for when you're building a solid foundation. I think you need to root your foundation into a little more recovery so you're not overdoing the programming, because if you put calisthenics in there every other day, you're going to be doing probably push pulls, upper bodies 4 days in a row. I would reconsider that if that is even if you're a cardio person, I would get a better arrangement of your training system. If you could pick one muscle group to rely on for buds, what would it be? Just hypothetically had to pick one. Man, that's a tough one, because you're going to work everything. I think your arms are important. I think your legs are important. I also think your spine is extremely important. But you can't do all the activities that are required of you without all three of those. So I don't know, man. That's an impossible question to answer. Fun game, but I don't think it's a very something that would help you at all if you could only do one. Freshman in college, planning on listing after I graduate. What should my run mileage be right now? I don't know. You tell me. What is it right now? If it's at 10 to 15 miles, hey, that's great. But, work your way up the system, and then work your way back down. So go through a cycle. You for sure, you have 4 years, you should definitely look into seasonal tactical fitness periodization. I'll put a link to it into the description of YouTube down here. And I'll put it up on Facebook as well to that link. But you need to read about seasonal tactical fitness periodization. I write about it all the time. It is a system that if you do that for 4 years, you'll be ready for any Spec Ops program in your future. Tim, should any time be spent on building aerobic capacity? Yes, you should be an aerobic machine. Is it solely the main focus to get goal pace as fast and healthy as possible? Well, if you think about what goal pace is, I want you to get goal pace so it's so easy that it's a maintainable pace to meet your goals. So a 6-minute mile, for instance, for timed runs, is not necessarily easy, but it's not overly difficult either if you practice it and you get in shape to do it. So that is building aerobic capacity. The more you can do those events and be in the aerobic state, the better. Because if you're in an anaerobic state during all your events, you're going to have to constantly fuel to be able to last a long day. Yeah, you might be able to get through a 30-minute workout being anaerobic, but you're not going to last all day being anaerobic without a constant source of fuel. And you may not be able to eat for 3 or 4 hours, and that is when people bonk. So building aerobic capacity, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can build aerobic capacity with goal pace running. You just have to get in better shape so it is aerobic. What are some of the injuries that occur at buds, and what would you recommend to prevention? Man, there's hundreds of injuries, all types. I would say IT band issues, shin splints, sometimes Achilles, some shoulder injuries. There's some sickness that occurs too. SIPE, swimmer-induced pulmonary embolism. Jeff and I did a podcast on that one recently. Check out the tactical fitness reports on those. But we've actually gone through a lot of the common injuries that occur on other podcasts, tactical fitness report podcasts at Buds, and just how to lick your wounds and recover from them every day. Because most of them are going to be overuse injuries versus traumatic injuries. Every now and then you'll see a traumatic injury, like somebody breaks a leg or something, but most of them are overuse injuries because you either came in underprepared or you just overdid it one day, and just long-term development of tendonitis is probably the number one injury. What's an indicative way to hit a 7-minute mile? Currently at super slow 9-minute mile. My advice is go run the track, get on a 1/4-mile track, and you need to run a lap in 1:45 and get good at 1:45 lap. Now, you may have to go from 2 minutes to 1:45 over time. So maybe start off at 2 minutes, because a 2-minute lap is an 8-minute mile. So it makes more sense to go from 9-minute mile to 8-minute mile to a 7-minute mile. So go 2-minute laps, 2-minute laps, 2-minute laps. Get good at 2-minute laps. We usually, like this morning, we did 8 1/4 miles at your goal pace. Everybody had a different goal pace. Some were 6-minute miles, some were sub 6-minute miles, some were 7-minute miles. So learn that goal pace and master it. And eventually the 1/4 miles will turn into half miles, and those half miles will turn into miles, and you'll be running an 8-minute mile, then a 7-minute mile. But it's going to take some time. I do it with goal pace intervals. Pretty simple. But, if you're not used to running that much, probably run every other day and do some really hard non-impact cardio on a bike or elliptical. Really put out the same effort that you would have to put out to run an 8 or 7-minute mile. All right, let's see. All right, so last few questions. I'll go over here to Instagram, see what you guys got. I'm not that far from DC. I am in Severna Park, Maryland. A lot of people drive from DC to come train with us. It's like 45 minutes. Depends on how bad you want it. Do you have any articles and tips on preventing soreness after a hard workout? Mobility work. I do have. I usually follow workouts with some mobility time. 5 minutes of non-impact cardio, followed by 5 minutes of stretching and foam rolling. And if I'm really sore, I'll do that again. So that's 20 minutes of 20 minutes of time there. Is 12:55 a good two mile? Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's less than a 7-minute mile, not quite a 6-minute mile. So I would say you're in that zone of pretty good. All right. So how many solid months of training do you recommend before joining Buds and Navy? Well, that's going to depend on your current abilities. So I've seen guys come in as little as 2 to 3 months specifically focused on Buds training and crush it because they were athletes in high school, maybe 2 or 3 sports, and then they were a D1 athlete in college, and they had the athletic foundation to just change and build up on what they needed to build up to be able to crush all those assessment selection process tool that I have. However, I've seen people come in and takes 18 months to do prepare fully for because they weren't ready. They were still growing, or they were just weak and they couldn't run. Had to teach them how to swim. So all those things come into play when you're making a timeline. My advice is don't make a timeline for how many months you need to train. Make a performance starting line. So once you hit all these numbers, now go talk to a recruiter. Get that done. All right. That's the rule. Swanee Riverbed. Yep. You know what? It was actually the Alapaha River, which flows into the Swanee. So I would drive from Live Oak out to where the Alapaha filled into the Swanee, and it was always dry in the summer, and I'd run on that one. So, yes, but I am from Swanee County, Florida. So, all right. I think I'm going to end it there, guys. Sorry. I've been at this for an hour. Sorry I did not get to all of your questions. I will go back through. Man, there's a lot of questions. Thank you so much for these questions. Some of them may give me ideas for future articles, so I appreciate that. If I did not get to your question, please feel free to just email me that question, stu@stewsmith.com. Happy to answer that by email. Like I said, some people DM me, but when I get 100 people DM me in a day, it's really hard to keep track of which ones I've answered or not, and they get lost. So there you go. I hope this was helpful. I will go through some of these questions and put articles that I've already written, but I guarantee you, if you asked a question, I want you to try this. Go into Google, put Stu Smith, and the key to your question, whether it is running or swimming or whatever the question is, and I may have already written an article about that specific question. If not, no big deal. I will work on it and I will answer it by email. But I've written over 1,000 articles over the years, and many of them come from questions that people ask. So if you think your question is common, it probably is, and it's probably been asked before by generations before you. So anyway, yeah, let's go. I am out of here. I hope you guys go check out stewsmithfitness.com. I got some new products coming up, but also got a coupon code military15 saves 15%. If you want to go there, take it. All right, I'm done. We'll see you later.